Well, good evening, everybody. This is meteorologist Andrew Pinero with this special kind of weather podcast called the Nowcast edition. Because that's kind of the mode that we're in with meteorologists right now. No more forecasting. We're kind of doing this nowcasting, which is looking at live stuff all around us and then going off of that versus more based off of forecast models. Although we're going to talk a little bit about the forecast models as well. All right, so usually I'm doing my climate show, the Climate Matters show right this time, but couldn't make it down to New Jersey because of the snow. So usually I'm trying to get this forecast discussion podcast up a little bit earlier, maybe like 3 or 2:30, something like that. And then later in the evening, usually 5 o'clock, I'll be at another studio doing that Climate Matters show. Hello, everybody. So, interested to know what you guys have with the snowfall totals. This picture right behind me, this is my balcony. That, it looks a lot more on here. That's probably about 6 inches when I took that picture. And that was maybe about an hour and a half ago. So that is something, we're seeing the snow continue to accumulate in a lot of spots. So on the big picture here, in the big satellite, we see our system here. It's still pretty stationary out there. There's also a couple of things. So there were 2 low pressure systems. Over the weekend, I was talking about a low pressure system on Tuesday that may have brought this nor'easter through. That one stayed to the south, and that's what I was predicting, and it actually did. It stayed to the south, and it was pretty much a miss for the tri-state region. But that low pressure system then kicked in behind it. So it pulled a lot of this moisture in right behind it from another low pressure, and that's what's happening right now. So the low pressure that's going on right now is that second one that was pulled in by the first one, which was kind of interesting. And there was also a little bit of a lull in the snow when there was kind of a transfer of energy, when one low pressure was pulling up energy from another one. That's where you may be seeing in some spots right here, that little blank spot, that's what's called dry slotting. Not a lot of energy there, and that's where that energy is transferring one to the other. Also, it looks like there's a pretty sharp line about where this is stopping going farther north. Hey there, everybody. Nothing much going on. At least I have power. I can go live now. If you do see me cut out in the middle of this, it's probably because power went out. The winds are starting to kick up as well, so we'll see how long this goes. But anyway, with here, that line that's pretty much keeping everything in place is because we have Arctic air. There's a lot of Arctic air coming down from Canada, and that's very dry, cold air. And that is kind of meeting this moisture, and then as the moist air and the dry air meet each other, they kind of just stop right there. And that's why they're not really for any further advancing with this system going north. So that's kind of interesting. And now when we take a look at a bit of a different type of radar, this is a bit more intricate type of radar. So let me put this in motion. Yes, Raymond, you got lucky just because of all that Arctic air that was keeping the storm pretty much at bay. So when I step off to the side here, it's very interesting to take a look at. You see a lot of these waves or kind of snow bands. So as these are going, so here's one band right there. There's one right behind it. There's another one. Where is that? This one's pretty much right over New York City right here. So there's a bunch of snow bands. And then I also had a couple of friends reporting in along the Jersey shore. There's nothing really going on in some spots. Like there's some little bits happening right here. But once you get further south, there's a lot of snow happening. But the other challenge there is the higher sun angles. So right now, it's spring. Daylight saving time happened already, or we're in daylight savings time now. So the sun is at a higher angle, which means even through the clouds, more direct sunlight, which is keeping the roads a bit warm. If you guys watched a video I uploaded yesterday with my weather update video, I actually did a vlog style holding the camera in front of me with a thermal imager. It was quite interesting to see that even though the ambient temperature yesterday was probably around the freezing point at that time, The roads were in the low 40s for the degrees Fahrenheit, and the grassy areas were in maybe the mid 20s. So quite a spread of temperatures from the grass to the road. And yes, the severe weather. Let me see if I go back here. I don't know if we can see. It was pretty much through this area here. I don't know about any tornadoes. I know I have a couple of storm chasing buddies. I don't know if anybody got out there. But yeah, there were tornado watches up yesterday, and I talked about that as well. So this storm system is not done yet. We're still having these bands that are going to be pretty much coming on in, and this is not going to be really dissipating as it hits land. There's still a lot of spin, and this system is pretty much stationary. There's also at the very far edge down here of the radar, it doesn't really show up too well just because it's at the very edge, but these are more bands coming in. So we're going to have another couple of heavy bands coming through. If you kind of track the motion, this is the nowcasting part. If we take these and we look at the motion, it's kind of going to go up this way. So it's kind of, and it's pretty long as well, following that motion. So it's going to be a bit of a sweeping motion. If I was at the news station with the radar there, I'd be actually able to track the times, but this one, not really. Nothing really here is coming up giving me any kind of times that I would like, but can I draw at least on this? Yes, it looks like I can at least draw. There we go. So here is that first band. And then the second band, right about here. So that's where they are now. And then let's go back into the radar. This is true nowcasting right now. All right, so at the beginning of this radar loop, this is where those two bands were. And in the blue areas that I highlighted, that is where they are right now. And the distance between there, I think I also have a distance tool. Oh, it erased. Oh, that's too bad. Let me see. This radar app just had some updates. Let's see here. If I can redraw these. All right, so I drew those again. There we go. Now let's see if I can keep this up. No, it just doesn't. For a $40 piece of software, this really has some limitations. The $10 version of this app that's on iPads and iPhones is much better than the Mac version from what I feel. But let me see if I can just get a distance here. So roughly, that's the distance it was covering, it looked like, from where it was. So it traveled roughly 16 miles between the dot was where the front edge of that band started to where it is now. So it was roughly about 16 miles. And let me see the time frame. Does this at least show time? Here we go. So that was 4:51 to 5:49. So about an hour, so roughly 16 miles an hour. So if we take this little piece here and move it up, so if I take that and redraw here to get to another, say, 16 miles, this is assuming everything's staying at about the same speed. So right about here. So in an hour from now, that band is just barely getting to the South Shore, just about to, it looks like, go into the New York Harbor. So that's really what nowcasting is. And yes, the Android app and the iOS app, I feel, are better than the computer version. For some reason, there's a lot of things missing from this computer version that are in that Android app and the iOS app. Yes, you shouldn't be wanting any kind of particularly dangerous situations happening. Now, let me see, cleared that out, put this back in loop. Oh, get that out. So that's pretty much what nowcasting is. We're taking things that are happening right now and making forecasts based on what's going on. And then we could see those next couple of bands are going to be just in the South Shore within maybe an hour. And then actually, let me go even further. So if we go from here to about that 16 miles, that should be just north of New York City, getting to southern Westchester County in about 2 hours from now. So 5, 6, 7, about 7:50, 8 o'clock, that's when we should start seeing some more heavier bands kind of coming through. Assuming that these bands do stay together and they travel at the same velocity. All right. But yeah, this was, it's still going on. There's still got a lot of parts to it. This was a very tricky and a very frustrating system to forecast for. And the frustration still continues with these forecast models. So, with the GFS, I'm really starting to show just the snowfall totals. I don't know why this is failing me right now. There we go. So the pinks right there are probably about less than 6, but about more than 4. So probably about 4 to 5 inches is going on right here with the GFS. Let me actually turn on this side. With the GFS. A little bit more, over 6 inches once you get into that Pennsylvania area as well. But we're not really seeing too much of anything else with the GFS. So in other spots, like right in Westchester, Rockland County area, staying here, 2 to 3 inches, it's already wrong. That picture I showed you, a couple frames back here, I think that's more than 3 inches right there, which is what the GFS was already forecasting for. So overall, the initialization of the forecast models is what we call it. The initialization of this GFS is just wrong. When we take a look versus the snowfall map compared to the mean surface level pressure, this is going to be still going on overnight tonight, and it'll just be ending, say, between 8 a.m. and 2 p.m. By 2 p.m., this is saying on the GFS, it's warming up just a little bit here. On the Twin Forks, maybe a little mixed to rain, but the bulk of the system is pretty much out. Oh, that's interesting. That day, what was the date again? There we go. May 31st, 1998 was the only particularly dangerous situation tornado for New York. Thank you, Raymond. That's a nice little tidbit there. Speaking of tropical tidbits. There's also, I don't know if this is going to break the system. I think it's still going. Okay. So here, one of my colleagues, Jeff Banson, another meteorologist on FiOS, huge snowflakes coming down in Queens, I guess where he is right now. He tagged me in it, so I was able to see that. And also there's somebody else commenting on my Twitter feed, another friend of mine. She said there's not much happening there. The snow plows that were going by had no snow to plow. They were just throwing out some salt, I'm assuming. So once you get very close to the shore, that's where these snowfall totals really drastically drop off. And I think I was live for that whole time. I hope just because the app, the controller for this, I covered it up with a notification bar. Now we're going to move on to the Canadian. Now usually I know a lot of people that also follow Joe Chaffee knows that he doesn't like the Canadian. I don't really like the Canadian either, but in such a system that has a lot of stuff going on, you gotta look at all the forecast models. Also, it looks like a couple other people are replying that they also see those thick, big, fat flakes in the New York City area, specifically in Queens, where that tweet was coming from. So now we're looking at the Canadian there. Yeah, once you get pretty much north of the Hudson Valley, it looks like that's where that Arctic air is interacting. So for the Capital District, it looks like it's keeping all that pretty much out of the area, that Arctic air. Now the Canadian, the other funny thing with the Canadian, on television, and Kevin, if you are watching, so I was right with that one. So essentially, Kevin's one of the executive producers at the news station I work with. And over the weekend, I was saying I was doing model analysis. Out of 7 forecast models, only 2 at that time showed significant snow. One of them was the Canadian, and it was saying 12 to 16 inches of snow. And that was on Sunday morning. So it's quite interesting to see from Sunday morning, the Canadian kind of had the right idea. Some areas may not get all the way up to the 16 inches. We'll talk about that a little bit more later on in the stream in my snowfall map, which I do have an updated snowfall map. If you guys follow my social media accounts, I did post one earlier. I made some tweaks based off of that Nowcasting, seeing what was going on right now. But let's see if I can zoom in really close here. So a lot of this is pretty much that 6 to say 10 inches, it looks like, in there. And even if you look at the legend on the side, getting near that very wider area, that's getting up to 12. So 6 to 12 is kind of what this is forecasting for now. Not like the 12 to 16 that it originally said Sunday, but it's kind of got it. And the other thing to notice as well, that banding, there's kind of this area right in the middle here. That's where that heavier band was kind of setting up. Yes, that was another thing too. This is saying it's snowing going all the way up, even through the New York, Canada border. But it's really not doing too much. And if we go back to the national radar, yeah, there's nothing going on up here, the New York Canadian border. So even though it kind of had an interesting spot with the Canadian, with the snowfall totals in that band area, it was really not accurate having the outskirt areas. So that was the Canadian. Now let's switch over. We've got the icon model here, the German model. Oh, before we do that, let me go back to the Canadian here and just switch over to the mean surface level pressure. Show the end time of this. So this is actually showing a transition back over Long Island to rain. I don't think that's going to happen. So right over here, it's showing. We are going to be seeing, I'd say pretty much right at, looks like that line right here is the Nassau-Suffolk County border. So pretty much Suffolk County is going to be back into rain. And the timing on this is 8 a.m. tomorrow. I don't think that's going to happen, but interesting to see. Yes. The Canadian version, for some reason, I don't know why. It's just one of the least reliable, I would say. All right, now going on to the German icon model. So the snowfall totals is also ending right about here. So Raymond, what you were talking about the Canadian before had that little bit of snow going up to northern New York State and even up to the Canada border. The German one actually has it pretty much right on the money so it's initializing properly. And this has the cutoff not even as far north as I would think. I would think it would see going even into Sullivan, Ulster, and Dutchess County here. But this has most of Sullivan and Ulster counties there have no snow. But it's also underplaying the snow a little bit. So this is saying 1 to maybe 3 inches going into southern Rockland and Westchester. Let me bring up the legend again. So that light area right over here, that's between 2 and 3 inches. That's what it's saying right at that southern Rockland and Westchester area. So it's already wrong. Again, it had this kind of right idea of that banding and the Arctic dry air staying, coming in more and keeping all that snow to the south. But it kind of got it wrong with the snowfall totals, at least there. And on Long Island, it's getting that pinks, which is kind of what I'm thinking as well. The pinks being in the 6 to 12 inch range. And then the Twin Forks are a little bit less, and that's also kind of what I'm thinking. The Twin Forks, specifically the South Fork, is not really going to be getting too much. And then going into the Boston area, near the Boston area, there's a little bit of pink up there as well. But that's not really a lot much more. That's pretty much right on that cusp of blue to pink. So that's right around 3 to 4 inches. Thank you, Raymond. Say, did anyone out there severe? What do you mean? Oh, a lot of people are sick of snow. Because it's spring. We shouldn't really be dealing with these snowstorms anymore. I love thunderstorms as well. I'm hoping one time to get out with some of my storm chasing friends. One of my friends actually built a storm chasing truck with some, I think it's bulletproof glass, a hail guard that extends over the front windshield, an acrylic dome at the top of his car that has a 360 camera in it that he controls remotely. From the driver's seat, has a little joystick down there that he can move the camera around. He goes pretty much out every year. Now, before we switch to the NAM, let me switch this to the mean surface level pressure, and let's see what the end time is for this. So this is showing ending. Where's the time? Bright lights. There we go. By 8 and 11 a.m., something like that. But still showing. Now this is where there's also some micro scale disagreements between them. Hold on to that idea, Raymond. We're not at the NAM yet. The blue here, that's showing it's ending as snow, even going out as far east as the Twin Forks of Long Island. And the Boston area, still in snow. Now the last model, the Canadian, was quite different. That's what, the same time period for the Canadian versus the GFS, or versus the Icon model. A lot warmer air coming in, but that's kind of what I've seen with the Canadian is it usually gets that temperature profile wrong. So that's the Icon. We're going now. Let's go on to the NAM. All right. So, yes, Raymond, it got it quite wrong for this storm. The highest it ever put out throughout the tri-state region was in these white, bluish white areas, which is 3 inches. So it's wrong already. The snow profile, it kind of got right, keeping all the snow pretty much south of Sullivan-Ulster County there, and having this little bit of a band. It's still, even though it's not right with the snowfall totals, it has this band setting up. But it's not enough, because that 3-inch of snow mark happened a few hours ago. Again, I'll go back to that picture. I think that's more than 3 inches. And then let's just see what it's doing on the mean surface level pressure. And let's see what the end time of this is showing. So it's going to be ending, it has it ending a little bit earlier. This is going about 8, 9 in the morning. Pretty much done with the tri-state region. And still snowing a little bit for the Twin Forks area. Still has that little bit of snow there. But it's also staying snow versus that transition back to rain that the Canadian was saying. I don't think anyone is really looking at the severe thunder. I know you love thunderstorms, Raymond, but I don't think many other people are looking at that right now, just because they're looking at snow. They hate the snow. It's still snowing. That was the NAM. Now the next one I want to bring up, I have to log into my site real quick. So for right now, my audio should stay up, but I'm going to black out the camera. I'm still here. I still see audio. Let me just log in to my special website. Oh, it helps if I type right. Where'd it go? All right, now I'm in. The next couple ones I'm going to bring up are the European, which I can get the European snowfall, or not snowfall, mean surface level pressure from here. And also I'm going to bring up Deep Thunder, which is an IBM model. That has a couple, so I'm going to bring up the mean surface level pressure. Maybe. Let me see. Oh, that's why. A new model run of that just came out. So let me back up one model run from 18Z to 12Z. All right, I got that up. We'll bring up accumulated snowfall as well. We'll see what that's doing with what it thinks for accumulated snowfall, which the Deep Thunder one you'll see in a minute is it's quite interesting. And then the RPM, which is usually what you guys see on television with the Futurecast. That one is also in the midst of a new model run, 21Z, so I'll back that up to the 18Z. This one only goes out 72 hours. And the last one I'll bring up is the same thing, the RPM, but just accumulated snowfall. All right. Let me get out of that site I log into. And I'm back. All right. And then I can see your comments again. So, this is the European here. Remember that 540 line we talked about? That has it well east. So, pretty heavy snow coming through the area. And let's see when it says this is going to be ending. This is also about that 18Z time, that it's still showing some snow on the Twin Forks area there. You should be able to see anything. You should be able to see right now. And next here, this is the Deep Thunder model. This is also an experimental forecast model, I should say. So this is interesting because it's also bringing in a mixing line here. That's quite a bit of mixing it's doing right there. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit. So I think this is mostly out in the ocean. Yeah, it looks like it's not, there's maybe a little bit going out to the south shore there, but it looks like that's mostly out into the ocean. Oh, Arctic air has nothing to do with the temperature. It's where it's coming from. It is coming from the Arctic, this air, which is not necessarily colder once it gets here, but that's the air mass that's coming down into the area. That's also why it's dry. A regular springtime air mass for us wouldn't be as dry, but because this is an Arctic air mass coming down, doesn't necessarily mean cold for being Arctic. It means dry. That's one of the biggest parts of that. That's also why you're not seeing any snow up by you in central New York, even going up more north of you into Canada. That's some of those forecast models we're talking about. The end time here is early. That picture of a little bit of mixing going on in the Twin Forks area, snow, that's at 8 a.m. And then everything's pretty much gone also by, even going up to the more New England area, it's just turned a bit more into an icy storm there. That's 18Z, which is about 2 p.m. Eastern time. And the accumulations, quite interesting to see. Right here. Okay, this is much better. I believe it was yesterday or Monday that this Deep Thunder model was putting out 16 to 24 inches of snow. That was the single highest amount of snowfall I have seen out of any of these forecast models for this storm. What was your comment here? 36 isn't cold compared to negative 32. Are you still talking about the Arctic air mass? Because Arctic air mass doesn't have to do with the temperature. That's not what I'm referring to. However, with this model, even though it's fairly accurate, I'm thinking, with these snowfall totals, it also is showing nothing really too much happening for northern New York State going into Canada. So that's quite interesting as well. So this Deep Thunder model, at least this particular run of the Deep Thunder model was pretty good. So this is showing, looks like New York City at 8.9 inches right there, showing almost 10 inches for the New Jersey-Pennsylvania border. It's also showing what one of my friends was saying at the Jersey Shore, that's as far as I could zoom in, but at the Jersey Shore area, right about here, barely anything along the Jersey Shore until you get to much more north, which is closer to the New York Harbor area. So this particular image looks fairly accurate, and it's showing those bands as well. You got a little bit of a band going on right here, going into Long Island, even maybe a little bit into the Twin Forks. I'd say personally this is probably going to go into Connecticut a bit as well. But overall, this so far looks like one of the better ones. Oh, well, I'm not really a salty person, so. Yeah, I know you might be thinking of somebody else. And the RPM, and this will be the last one that we're going to look at. Then I'll show you my thoughts of a snowfall map. So here, let me put this in play. Let's see, keeping it through, pretty much ending right about there. Yes, I think you got it right there. So still snow, and this keeps it all snow. See Boston right there. Keeping it all snow for New England. Not really any transition to rain, but it's doing that out into the Atlantic, which is kind of what I would think as well. And the end time of this is about 11, this particular frame is 11:30 a.m. Eastern time. And then let's take a look at the snowfall totals with this map, with this model. And that pretty much looked like it. I'll just go a couple more. Okay, so this one also has the right idea, I'd say. It has that banding kind of setting up in the middle there. Nothing really much going on in northern New York State going into Canada. But the snowfall totals, let's see. Now this one doesn't actually show counties, it shows states. So it's a little bit hard to see right over here where exactly those counties are. Because there would be a big difference in the Hudson Valley between Rockland, Westchester County, Sullivan, Ulster County. Almost nothing to maybe 6 to 12 inches of snow. So that's something quite interesting that we see these last couple forecast models kind of on the right idea. Keeping it pretty narrow with the snow. Also showing Long Island pretty much getting a good wallop there, some snow. Let's see. All these models have different outputs. So it looks like, I think that's matching very little in the middle right here. Very, very tiny bit of this 8 to 12. So this color right here, or I'd say 8 to 10. 10 to 12 is in the pink. There were no pinks going on over Long Island. I don't know if it's going to be that high near a foot. It could be close to 10 inches, but I don't know if we're going to be going over a foot for Long Island. So that's something we'll talk a little bit once I get to that snowfall totals map. And going into Maine, it brings up another little burst of some snow there, which I mean is possible just because it might get, revigorate once the low heads back out into the ocean, grabs a little bit more energy from there. But Raymond, I don't know what you said, just because anything that's an emoji in this app that I'm reading from inside the video switcher is gibberish. So that comment, I can't see it. Probably if I look back later after the stream ends at the channel, the chat, and take a look at that, I'll be able to see it. But as of right now, I'm seeing just gibberish in there. Everything looks healthy. I'm just checking the stream health as well. It looks pretty good. All right. Now the last thing we'll talk about, my thoughts of a snow map. So I'm just going to step off screen here for a bit, just so you can appreciate the whole picture. So pretty much here, let me get back in, this little swath right there, that banding that I was talking about throughout all those forecast models, 8 to 16. Yes, I know that's a wide range of 8 inches, anywhere between 8 and 16. There are others that are saying an 8 to 10 range, and 10 to 12, then a 12 plus. Instead of having multiple different things like that, just because this is very uncertain, this forecast model, or this particular storm with the forecast models, I'm having that 8 to 16 inch range. Then a bit more south of there, going down to the northern part of the Jersey Shore here, that's 4 to 8. What you can't see on this particular map is that line kind of cuts off right at the bottom of your screen, and below that is a coating to maybe 3 inches, and that's about it. Or maybe 4 inches, because I kind of like to have one tier end where the other begins. So 4 to 8 there, and then this one begins 8 to 16. And also, again, once you get to that cutoff there, let's say orange going into Sullivan and Ulster County, coating to 4. Again, a wide range of just little coating to 4 inches. But it's again just because it's very uncertain with this system. Yes, I did see forecast. Actually, if you want, I'll touch on that real quick as well. So once I finish up the forecast model for this storm, briefly we'll go into the next potential nor'easter, number 5, maybe. Yeah, so the biggest challenge I had was with Long Island, the cutoff. I put out a map earlier that actually had less for Suffolk County. I had Nassau in that 8 to 16, and I kind of had a little block part here. So New York City itself, all the boroughs of New York City were in the 4 to 8. But from, again, with Nowcasting, from what I was seeing with what's out there now, I'm pushing everything up a little bit. I still think, though, once you get out into very far east in Suffolk County, to the Twin Forks area, more specifically the South Fork, only about 4 to 8, which, again, can be significant for someone not really expecting a lot of snow, but that's one of the lower ones of this particular snowfall map. And then even going out into Connecticut, a lot of this is still within that 8 to 16, just because it's a big range I had, 8 to 16. So you can say maybe 10, 12 inches once you get a little bit closer to Fairfield County, Connecticut. Then once you get up, say, near Hartford, Connecticut, maybe closer to the 8-inch range versus the 10 to 16-inch range. But that's kind of what I'm saying with this forecast this forecast snow map. Say that. Oh, that has nothing to do with the microphone, but thank you for letting me know. That's my internet. Any of those little freezes, that's the iPad essentially losing connection to the internet, and it just cuts out. But it looks like, from my end at least, audio is fine. Yeah, it looks like the audio itself is... I'm looking at the live levels right now. I don't know what's going out. But I think it's just because the internet is having issues, just because there's a snowstorm going on right now. So those lines are having some issues coming out of my house. I'm still surprised I really haven't had any power fluctuations just yet. Last week I lost power also on Wednesday. Was it Wednesday? Last week? Oh, no, it was 2 weeks ago. Sorry. 2 weeks ago that the last snowstorm. There's so many of these nor'easters that I'm losing track, especially with another one potentially coming. But power is not really the most reliable thing at my house right now. And when the power goes out, internet's gone. So that's probably those little blips in and out that you're seeing. Oh, that's interesting. You lost power and didn't even get hit. Now, going a little bit into the future, we'll go all the way back to the GFS. There's a little bit of a tidbit there for the next storm coming in. And this is going to be interesting because it's looking like another one coming through on Sunday. So once we get past this, it's pretty much staying nice and, I think, let me just check the delay here. That's why this is having, I'm not sure if this is going to change anything. Let me see if I can fix this. Updating, I think I'm still live. Good, the computer screen's restarting. Okay. For some reason there was a weird delay going on between my computer and what I was seeing on the screen. But here, yes. So, high pressure comes in again, so we're going to have a pretty dry end of the week. Even going into Saturday, it looks pretty nice. But the next big question is Sunday. Right there. Oop, went too far out. Right about here. So this is about 2 a.m. Sunday. See this? That's what I'm talking about with this, next potential storm. It's been changing here and there. However, slight potential. Let's see if I can even go back some model runs. Let's go to Tuesday. Let's see what the GFS was doing Tuesday. It was having a couple different spots there. It's keeping it further south. Go to the Euro. So on the Euro here, also keeping it south. That's what they were kind of doing last weekend for today, keeping everything south, but we all know how that happened. What happened with that? Then, again, we get some nice calm air. Those isobars start to get further apart, and once they get further apart, less wind. And where are we? We're next, not this Saturday, but next Saturday. But yeah, there was that next potential little bit coming through here on Sunday. It's even on the Euro, bringing in some snow showers. Versus, I don't think the GFS actually did anything with that. Yeah, the GFS here. Maybe some little snow flurries here and there. But there's a slight potential, but that's, again, we were saying that last week there was a slight potential for this snowstorm. We all know it's happening right now. And then that's pretty much it just before I end this stream. Let's go all the way back to live radar. Let's take a look at what's going on. And again, this is live versus the uploaded videos that you normally see. So those bands kind of morphed into one. So remember in the very beginning we were talking about those two separate bands. You can see they've morphed into one, haven't really lost too much energy, and it looks like it's kind of turning in like that. So yeah, we're still not done with this. We still got a little bit to go. I'm gonna keep watching this for you guys, and I'll be seeing. It's been almost 50 minutes here, so I gotta get out and see outside my studio here and try and see what it's like with the snowfall totals there. And then I'll be either tweeting out or posting out on Facebook some new snowfall totals for me and also from you guys, either on the archive of this live stream or if you follow me on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook. I'd love for you guys to comment and say what snowfall totals you got. Like I had a couple people chime in throughout the stream on Twitter that were saying from the Queens area, big fat snowflakes, to Jersey Shore, barely anything. Snow plows going by, not even plowing anything because there was no snow to plow. So yeah, big old community. I love this part of the streaming and the internet because it kind of brings us all together. So again, this is meteorologist Andrew Pinero. If you want to check back, tomorrow I'll be uploading my next episode 2 of How to Drive Manual series. Episode 1 I uploaded last week was the longest of the series. It was about 15 minutes. And that was kind of an overview of how to drive manual. Tomorrow's will be specifically on something called rev matching and why rev matching is really important to prolong the life of the clutch and the transmission itself. So I got that coming, and don't forget, usually Fridays I try and get my weekend outlook forecast as well. And yeah, that's about it. Have a great evening, everybody. Again, this is meteorologist Andrew Pinero. Stay safe throughout the rest of this storm.